Welcome to Moto Italia. This is episode 1 of the build series for my Moto Guzzi Griso 1200 8V. It all started with a leaking crankshaft seal, and now the entire bike is stripped down and every part has been freshly repainted. So I figured, why not share the rebuild process with you? In today's episode, we'll be replacing the crankshaft oil seal and the input shaft seal on the gearbox. Then we'll install the gearbox onto the engine, getting everything ready to go back into the frame. The first step is to remove the old crankshaft oil seal. To do this, I use a punch to make 2 holes in the metal part of the old seal, directly opposite each other, about 180 degrees apart. Next, I screw in 2 sheet metal screws, 1 in each hole. Then, using a strong pair of pliers, I gently pull on the screws, working back and forth a little at a time. This helps the seal come out straight, without damaging the crankshaft or the housing. The next step is to clean the gearbox thoroughly in the parts washer. Since you're watching, I'm doing this a lot faster than I normally would. Cue the high-speed footage. Cleaning is done, and it's time to remove the gearbox input shaft seal. Unfortunately, I lost a bit of footage here. I only have 1 battery for my camera, and I didn't notice it was dead until I had already replaced the gearbox seal and installed the new crankshaft seal. So we're jumping straight ahead to installing the clutch plate on the crankshaft. This is mounted using 8 M8 by 25mm bolts, torqued to 42 Newton meters. Each bolt gets 1 drop of Loctite 243, the blue one also known as Smurf Cum. Jokes aside, this is actually an important step as specified by Moto Guzzi. If you skip the thread locker, there's a real risk that the bolts can come loose over the time. Before applying the Loctite, make sure to clean the threads thoroughly using something like brake cleaner or technical alcohol to ensure proper adhesion. At this point, I'm mostly trying to remember how everything came apart, while cleaning the parts with technical alcohol as I go. Since I don't have the proper tool to centre the clutch friction plate, I decided to loosely assemble everything first and then align the friction plate inside the flywheel using a caliper. Once the plate is centred, it's time to tighten the flywheel bolts. There are 6 fine thread M7 by 16mm bolts, and they should not be torqued beyond 20 Newton meters. I also apply a drop of Loctite 243 on each of these bolts.
Non più tra i farfalloni amoroso, notte e giorno di torno girano, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto Adugino d'amor. Delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto Adugino d'amor. Non più avrai questi bei panacchini, quel cappello leggero galante, quella chioma, quell'aria brillante, quel vermiglio d'onesco color, quel vermiglio d'onesco color. Non più avrai quei pennacchini, quel cappello, quella chioma, quell'aria brillante. Non chiudrai farfalloni amoroso, notte e giorno di torno girando, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto Adugino d'amor. Delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto Adugino d'amor. Fra guerrieri può far pacco, gran bustacchi stretto sacco, schioppo in spalla, sciabla a fianco, collo dritto, muso franco, un gran casco, un gran turbante, molto onor, poco cantante, poco cantante, poco cantante. Ed invece del fandango una marcia per il fango, per montagne, per valloni, con le nevi e salioni, al concerto di tromboni, di bombardie e di cannoni, che le porre tutti i tuoni all'orecchio fan fischiare.
The next step is to install the starter gear ring. It needs to be positioned correctly on the flywheel for all 6 bolt holes to line up. There are 6 bolts here and they should be tightened to 10 Newton meters. I also use a bit of Loctite just for good measure, even though it's not specifically required by Moto Guzzi.
Fra guerrieri po' bacco, gran bustacchi stretto sacco, schioppo in spalla, sciabla a fianco, collo dritto, muso franco, un gran casco, un gran turbante, molto onor, poco cantante, poco cantante, poco cantante. Ed invece del fandango una marcia per il fango, per montagne, per valloni, con le nevi e salioni, al concerto di tromboni, di bombardie e di cannoni, che le porre tutti i tuoni all'orecchio fan fischiar. Non più vrai quei pennacchini, non più vrai quel cappello, non più vrai quella chioma, non più vrai quell'aria brillante, non più vrai farfallone amoroso, notte e giorno di torno girato, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto ad un giro d'amor, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto ad un giro d'amor. Cherubino alla vittoria, alla gloria militar, cherubino alla vittoria, alla gloria militar, alla gloria militar, alla gloria militar.
The next task is to clean and inspect the parts in the clutch slave cylinder. This one is fairly new, so I'm reusing the seals. I clean everything thoroughly, apply a fresh layer of assembly grease, and then reinstall the cylinder onto the gearbox. Now it's finally time to mount the gearbox to the engine. You'll need to do a bit of wiggling to get the gearbox shaft to line up with the clutch plate. A good trick is to put the gearbox in first gear and slowly rotate the output shaft while gently pushing the gearbox toward the engine. That makes it much easier for the shaft to slide into the clutch splines. Finalising the clutch assembly. The clutch push, rod and thrust bearing are already in place. Now the last step is to mount the hydraulic slave cylinder onto the gearbox. It's secured with 3 M6 bolts, torqued to 10 Newton meters. Securing the gearbox to the engine. Now it's time to bolt the gearbox to the engine. This is done using 5 M8 nuts plus 1 M8 by 45mm bolt from the opposite side. All fasteners should have lock washers and they're all torqued to 20 Newton meters. Now that the gearbox is bolted on and torqued to spec, the final step is to reinstall the throttle body sync rod. I've cleaned the parts thoroughly and applied fresh grease. The joints are quite tight, so it helps to use a large pair of pliers to carefully pop them back into place. Now everything is ready to lift the frame back on and bolt it to the engine and gearbox. That's coming up in the next episode of this build. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe for more episodes and more Italian motorcycle projects to come. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay fast, stay classic, stay Italian.